Hey you guys, what's going on? Ninshy here, and I'm bringing you guys another video to talk a bit on a bit of a topic, kind of to go back to what I kind of talked in my last video. So if you guys remember my last video, I was discussing what Conduit 3 needs and where the series necessarily went wrong. Now, with that, I covered a lot of stuff, like, I covered a lot of the good things about both games and a lot of things I would like to see change, like obviously the loadouts being dropped, perks being dropped, and so on and so forth. You guys can actually catch that video just going back to my channel. One of the things that I touched on at the end of the video that I wasn't really able to convey, or at least one of the things anyway, I was talking about the in-game voice, and I actually went back to that video and I posted a link in the comments so that you guys can understand what I meant as far as the announcer voice in the game. But the reason why I have this actual Conduit 2 picture up here is to talk about something pretty interesting, and I think these two topics are pretty important. Melee weapons and better controls in Conduit 3. These are two topics that I didn't cover exactly in the video that I want to cover over in this one really quickly. As far as melee weapons goes, as you can see here in the concept art of the game, there was what appears to be a swordish type of some form of melee weapon, like some kind of drudge energy sword or something. And for whatever reason, for one reason or another, it was dropped. I can't really say as to why HVS intended to drop the weapon. I think it would have actually been something really cool to see, because if you look at it, there's melee weapons have actually made a pretty big staple as far as in FPS games and in shooters in general go. I haven't played Battlefield enough to know really if there's any melee weapons aside from the knife, but I know Call of Duty has the knife in Indefinite. It had the ballistic knife as well, and that was so. There's been melee weapons existing in games, and then Halo had the sword for the longest period of time, and later came the gravity hammer, and even in games where you can use the flag as a weapon, or you can use the skull and oddball. So I was thinking that a energy sword would actually be an excellent addition to the game. I think it would be a power weapon, and obviously like there's like a percentage of energy that it has, or something, because that's how it's an energy sword after all. So I imagine it'd be something kind of like not necessarily ammo based, but more like power based, like how much power it actually has. So then over a time of using it, obviously the power would eventually drain out, and then eventually just kind of becomes a regular little melee. And I just thought that would be a pretty cool thing to add into Conduit in general. I think it would be really beneficial to the series as a whole, and just to add something, a different kind of dynamic into the multiplayer itself. Now, as you guys are watching here, you're actually watching Halo 2 Anniversary from actually the championships that just happened on Sunday. And the reason why I put this video in here is so you can kind of see what I mean by the dynamic of the melee weapons. But really, this is more in tune to my second topic. And my second topic is better controls. If anybody who's played Conduit 2 and used the classic controller pro, this is not so much for Wii Remote players and things like that, because HVS pretty much took care of anybody who used the Wii Remote in Conduit 1 and Conduit 2. But in Conduit 2, they did add the dual stick controls. And with dual stick control, it took them a day to implement as what they had said. And it's really believable when you actually hold the controller and you use it. Because when you play, it feels very sluggish. It doesn't feel very smooth. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel sensitive to the sticks. It feels more like you're just adjusting, like, I don't know, Wii Remote controls, and then they put it on a controller, and it doesn't feel right. It didn't even have its own set of kind of a control scheme. You had the button layout that you could modify, but the sensitivities and things were really just the Wii Remote sensitivities with a couple extra things dropped off, like the motion sensitivity, and all those other things. It was really just the turning speed that you modified after that point. And I think they really need to cater more to the dual sticks, as well as just how they did with the Wii Remote. I mean, I'd rather see something more traditional, like regular sensitivities as far as dual sticks are concerned, because I mean, there's not too much really have to fine tune with that. I would like to see some pretty, like I said, general sensitivities being dealt with there, and ultimately, I want it to just work. I want it to be one-to-one when I move. I don't want to feel like I'm trying to turn. I want it to just feel like it's happening, like how I like Call of Duty, or even as you see in this video, Halo here. Because when you see the controls and how they work on dual sticks properly, this is the kind of result that you get, and you can see things like this happening in game that you wouldn't typically get. At least in Conduit 2 anyway, if you were using CCP. Like I used it, and I had the most difficult time trying to make some things happen, and it was pretty, I don't know, it was pretty outrageous to me. I didn't really like it at all. I had a lot of problems with a lot of issues, but because I was so attuned to using dual sticks after playing Call of Duty and buying the classic controller to try it out to see it, I became so like accustomed to it that it became like a staple for me. And going back to Wii Remote just didn't feel quite the same. Although I still love playing with Wii Remote from time to time, but this seemed more of a better thing for me, especially coming off of Call of Duty and playing on multiple consoles and all those things. It seems more universal for me to use dual sticks. So the point is that I really feel that if they're going to do dual sticks again, which essentially they have to, especially with the gamepad and the Wii U Pro controller and so on and so forth, they really have to make sure that this time around when they do it, they really put in the effort to make this work. Make it work just how it should, and make it feel like I'm using a viable controller option, instead of just needless to say, just half-assing your way around through it. So I mean that's pretty like important to me, and I think it's something that's desperately needed as far as Conduit 3 is concerned. So again, I mean I feel a melee weapon should certainly be put in the game, because I mean melee weapons are something that's pretty new and it adds an added dynamic to everything. Again, I think it would be a power weapon. It'd be great to see on certain maps and things like that. It'd be really cool to have that in the game. And then in addition to that, obviously the better controls, the tighter controls for dual stick players, and so on and so forth, because that is more beneficial to everybody. It gives everybody a different controller option to use, and overall it gives us something to really kind of try out. But yeah guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I'm Ninshy. Take it easy.